Hi, I'm Elliot Nelson. I'm with MSU Extension and I'm in the Michigan Sea Grant program where we work to help promote the sustainable use of coastal resources around the state of Michigan. I'm here today with Jeremy Winsor. He's in Fulton High School here. He's a high school science teacher and we're here to talk a little bit about his aquaponics facility. So an aquaponics facility has both plants and fish growing in it. So Jeremy, can you tell me how did you get into growing fish?
So initially, we started in the Salmon in the Classroom program, and I was sitting in a classroom that did not have drains or water, and so I started looking into what are some different ways to just filter water, to get that water clear or clean for our salmon that we were raising, and it kind of just bridged into, well, as we're going through the nitrogen cycle, and the fish are producing ammonia, the ammonia is converted by bacteria to nitrites, and then those nitrites are further converted by other bacteria to nitrates. We could plant plants in a system that would uptake the nitrates and filter our water for us.
So it started with salmon in the classroom and then grew from there, and you added the plant component to help clean up your water. Mm-hmm. Great. So speaking of water, we're about quite a few miles away from any water right now. Maybe there's a river a few miles away, but we're really far away from any lakes or streams. But yeah, here we are in the middle of this landlocked area growing fish. So can you tell us a little bit about this facility and how you are able to grow fish far away from water here?
So I think the big part of it is these systems are naturally filtering. I don't have to really rely on groundwater supply. I don't really have to rely on any type of lake or stream in this area. We pump water into our recirculating systems. Right now we are focusing on raising rainbow trout. We've got some obviously salmon from our Salmon in the Classroom program, and we're also raising bluegill and yellow perch.
So you mentioned hydroponics, aeroponics, aquaponics. Can you describe a little bit more about these different types of non-traditional plant growing systems?
Absolutely. So our aquaponics system is using waste product from the fish, running through a series of filters, and then the nitrates that are produced end up being uptaken by the roots of the plants for growth. Our hydroponic system, because we don't have fish in the system producing those wastes, the nutrients have to be supplied to the system. And so we're using things like nutrient fertilizers, liquid fertilizers that are being added to our systems that then plants can uptake some of those things. The aeroponic system is slightly different. The whole reservoir is holding the nutrients in it, and then we've got some pumps that are spraying a fine mist with the nutrients in it up on the roots of those plants, so then the plants are able to grow in the system itself.
I see. So hydroponics is growing plants in water and giving them fertilizer. Aquaponics is growing plants in water, and you grow fish as well to provide that fertilizer for the plants. And then aeroponics is growing plants in the air, and then you just spray a mist of water on them. Is that right?
Yep.
I'd never heard of aeroponics. That's really cool. So when it comes to fish farming, what are some of the other styles of fish farms besides aquaponics out there? And have you guys ever toyed with the idea of some of those other styles for your teaching here? Or?
So when we've talked about, in my class specifically, we've talked about a number of ways in which fish are raised for the production of protein. We've focused in on net pen type systems, and we've talked about the environmental impacts that might occur with those in the Great Lakes region. We've also talked about flow-through systems on rivers and streams. Like many of our trout are produced at the hatcheries in our state. My students have also talked in great depth about recirculating systems. And I know that in this community as well, we do have a number of kids that are looking at ponds and the production of fish within just their local ponds as well, for both recreational opportunities and for feeding the family at home.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really give them an overview of all the different ways to grow fish, which seems like there's quite a few ways. So what's a typical day like for a fish farmer, or for keeping this kind of system up and running and keeping your fish healthy?
So a big component of it is making sure that my systems are operational as far as pumps working and maintenance of those pumps. Because if the pumps shut down, the oxygen is not being supplied to our fish. We also come out here and periodically harvest some of the plants that are being produced. Like right now we've got romaine lettuce that we are working towards supplying that to the school cafeteria. We've got some cherry tomatoes that are being produced as well, and we don't have a large production of those, but just enough that every now and again the kids will come out and collect enough of them for a good salad. And then of course we've got our fish production. At the end of the school year, ultimately our goal is to have some type of consumption of that fish. And we're really trying to get our kids interested here in the school day about like what would it look like if I really chose to be a fish farmer? What would it look like if here in the middle of Gratiot County, using just the groundwater that we have supplied in this area, running through some type of recirculating system, how could we potentially be able to supply a fish, or even in this case maybe some plant production for the local market?
Yeah, that's really interesting. You talked a lot about that failure and learning how to overcome that failure, and I think about farming in general, and that's something that every farmer has to learn how to deal with. Learn how to deal with what happens when it goes wrong, and learn how to fix it. So it's really incredible that you're teaching these students at a young age how to have that passion for fish farming and for farming in general, so that when they go out and start to maybe be the ones opening these kinds of farms or running these, they already have that head start that you've given them. So that's really great. We talked a lot about the different kind of systems. Let's talk about that fish on the plate itself. So, you know, how do these fish taste when they come out of a system like this? And what's kind of the nutritional value of a farmed fish?
So you hear often about naturally occurring fish versus farmed fish, and I do a lot of fishing, and I tend to eat a lot of fish. I don't notice any difference between them. I know some people say that they taste different, or the meat coloration is different. Any of them that we pulled out of our system here at the school have been as good a quality as anything I've caught in the natural environment.
Yeah, farmed fish and wild caught fish both have very similar nutrient benefits depending on, of course, what you feed them. So fish is really high in protein. Yep. It's actually the animal protein that has the most protein for the least amount of fat. And then the fat that is in fish is really good fat. So we have omega-3 fatty acids, like in your rainbow trout, that are going to be really good for brain development, heart health. And then fish also is really fairly high in many vitamins and minerals. Selenium and vitamin K and a number of other vitamins and minerals can really be supplied through a fish diet. What's your favorite way to eat fish? What's your favorite way to prep like a rainbow trout that you're growing here?
I really enjoy it in the smoker. There's nothing better than putting rainbow trout, a nice fillet of rainbow trout in the smoker, and pulling it out and then putting it in the refrigerator and then consuming that the next day. I
love using a little smoked rainbow trout in a chowder. So you have a smoked trout chowder that just permeates throughout that whole soup. It tastes really, really good.
Yep.
How about the perch? What's your favorite way to eat perch?
Oh, you can't go wrong by fried perch. Fried perch and fried walleye, that's the go-to.
Yeah, fried fish. My favorite, I really like a nice broiled walleye and then using it in fish tacos. Walleye makes some of the best fish tacos with a nice little slaw, like from some of your leafy greens in here. Chop those up with a little mayonnaise, a little ranch maybe, put that on top. Perfect. And cheese, of course. So fish are a really great, healthy protein source. And we're really fortunate in here in Michigan that we do have access to some Michigan fish. So I highly encourage you to seek out your own local fish farmer and find that fresh product that you can buy, or our commercial fishery as well. We have a lot of great products like whitefish and lake trout that can be got from our commercial fishery, or get really adventurous like Jeremy here did and start growing your own fish in your own backyard or your own pond or even your own basement. So I just want to say thank you to Jeremy Winsor for inviting us into his awesome facility, and thank you for the way that you're instilling a passion for fish farming and for agriculture in our students here at Fulton High School.
You're very welcome.